Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Kyle's Corner. I'm joined today by two guests who I have been watching their channels for a long time and talking to them on Discords. But this is my first time talking to both of them in person, so I'm really, really excited for this. I have Dan from Black and Blue Collar Reader, and I have Christopher Navo. Do you guys want to introduce yourself and your channels and what you've been reading and stuff like that lately? I'll start with you, Dan, on the right.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Dan. My channel's name is the Black and Blue Collar Reader. I just started really getting into reading about 5 years ago. So some of my channel is my journey. Some of this, stuff is just things I like, and it's mostly, of a darker nature for sure. I like a darker nature, but I'm getting into some literary fiction. I'm starting to branch out into other genres. And you can find me in the Discord with my man down here, Christopher Navo. We have a Discord together at the Unexpected Party as well.
Real quick, who are all the leaders of that Discord? Because I'm in it, and I thought it was just Sarah and StoryTube. So I didn't know you guys were. Is that the 4 of you then?
There's 10 of us, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I was always curious.
It was like a group of like the class of 2023 booktubers mainly, and we all like the idea of, and Matt is a good example of this, like the Fireside Discord, the idea of getting together a bunch of booktubers to form one Discord rather than like each of us having like an individual Discord, because we all belong to a bunch of Discords. So this way it's like kill 10 birds with one stone, because we're like 10 of us on there. So but yeah, I'm Christopher Navo. I'm pretty keep my channel the same as my my name. I do have the subtitle with the next chapter. I started my channel about a year ago. Same with Dan. Basically just passionate about love of reading, particularly fantasy and science fiction. I've also been a big fan of reading historical fiction. Actually a lot more so than fantasy back in my earlier years. And then and just again branching out also to some literary and manga too. So
yes. Now a question occurs to me, and I might be wrong about this, but Dan, when you started your channel, did you just kind of wake up one day and decide to start your channel? Because I know for Christopher, he sent me a message like 7 months before he started. He was like, "Hey, I'm dropping a video next week. I'm Christopher. Nice to meet you." And I'm like, "Great, man." And then, a long time went by. But then out of the gate, his lighting was, everything was good. He had like, everything ready to go. And I just feel like, Dan, you were the absolute opposite. You just turned it on one day and you were just like, "I'm going to just do this shit."
Yeah, I would say there's, traditionally published books and indie published books. Like I'm an indie published channel. I like picked up my phone, was like, holy shit, I can record videos on this thing. Let me at them, and I was reading, and I didn't have reading buddies. I didn't really have anybody I could talk to about the books I loved, and that were into the same type of genre that I was. And I was just like, I literally picked the hardest book to review my first time. I picked R. Scott Baker's The Darkness That Comes Before, and it's just like, it was bonkers, and I definitely shouldn't have done that probably, but I just kind of got out there, and I had all these funny things in my head that I wanted to share with people, inside jokes where it comes to books. I didn't set anything up. I didn't buy anything. I took my phone, I put it down. I did like 297 takes because I had no idea what editing was. I had to get it right on the first time. And I was just like, take 9. Even in my first video, it's like take 227. And it was, and it's just me like blathering on, and I tried to get some, some sort of structure. You can't really bottle me up, but, I tried to conform to like, how you see videos that are executed very well. And instead of just, kind of just speaking off at the top of my head, I tried to do that. And, I really don't drop any videos lately, but I'm still out there talking to people because I really do enjoy the shit that I read, and I really do enjoy kind of sharing with it, and mostly hearing other people's experience, because I'm just new to this. I'm not new to this where I could read, obviously, but I'm new to this as being a passion of mine, for the last, I would say, 4 years. And then I watch people's channels to get to know what they see out of books, and maybe explain what I'm feeling out of books, because you really it, it's difficult to explain your feelings until you hear somebody else say it. And
Absolutely.
it's been a cool journey, though.
Yeah, I feel like starting with a book review is, like, on the one hand, really scary because you're gonna enter a fandom, like, the Baker fans already have the ideas of what they want to talk about or what expect to see at a video. But on the other hand, starting with a book review could be kind of liberating because you just are gonna talk about whatever you felt about the book, and there's no, like, wrong way to do a book review. So you kind of had pros and cons going there. Christopher, what about you? What made you want to start a channel?
Yeah, I think I started watching booktube during, like most of us, like during COVID years and all that. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of people doing this. And I'm, look at my books in my library, and I thought, this sounds like something fun. And none of my close knit friends read, or at least don't read fantasy. So it's like, I can finally have a chance to talk with people about this this passion that in this hobby that we all share. So I think I started joining some of the discords. I think the initial one was like Mike's book reviews, of course, some of the larger channels, and then you
Mike's
slowly
is so overwhelming.
yeah, you slowly just start discovering other discords through the chain of of that way. And just introducing myself. I'm not very much of a speaker on Discord. I try to chime in once in a while. It's hard, because now you have like 20 discords that you're part of, and it's just like too overwhelming. But you want to be there, you want to show yourself once in a while in the community. And I think that's kind of what made me want to start. Now, I was lucky. I did have a camera already, because so I took nature photos and all of that with it. So I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I got a camera, and then I just bought some cheap RGB lights, and and I think the only thing I really bought was the microphone. And I turned on the camera and started. It's tough for me because I don't find myself an eloquent speaker, and I take a lot of pauses. I do a lot of uhs, and like Dan was mentioning, I think my intro video was like 50 takes, or if not more, of just trying to at least come off as professional as I could for a video. And I probably didn't have to go all out for it, but I wanted to. And I enjoy it. Like Dan, I don't do a lot. I'm not very frequent with my schedule on videos, but I try to, pop in there, and I'm trying to get back into a routine. As of now, I've taken 2 hiatuses from BookTube. My first year, I took a couple months in August, and then like a whole 3 months at the start of 2024. Part of that's personal reasons, but I want to get back into a routine again. And I think that happens where you get that, just overwhelmed with trying to come up with a video idea or something like that. And then at the bottom, in the end of the day, it's all about the enjoyment of what we read. And it's getting back to that basic of why we're making videos, why we want to communicate with other people. And that's the other reason why I make videos. It's like, that's the when you get into the comment section, that's the most rewarding aspect of BookTube, is interaction.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. Once your schedule changes for any reason, once I moved, I had the days that I would film and everything, and then I moved cities, and then I have just never gotten back in the groove of when to film and And now I have this office. So like, I'm like, oh, well, I can do it now. But now my whole life is scheduled differently. So I'm like, it's really a struggle getting consistent. Plus, as you mentioned, the comment section and like the community is the best part of it all. And I can do that on Discord or in live streams and stuff like that. So it's like I'm still getting the community aspect. So it's like the struggle to just turn on the camera and like film like a fully articulate review or a wrap up or something is just harder. But I do really want to get back to it because I actually do. Once I'm in the process of making it, I enjoy it. But it's like the idea of doing it, I'm just like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, Ian, I'm in like 12 Discords. I don't know, like a bunch. And I don't. I shouldn't.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of that.
Yeah. What are you guys reading right now?
I am reading. What was I just reading? So I started Lolita. Beautiful writing, subject matters. It's tough subject matter. Yeah, I might drop that. It depends. I'm trying to get through it, and I just there's a sickening feeling when I read that one, and even for me, somebody who likes that dark stuff, it's a tough read, but beautiful writing. I'm reading. I started to Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. That started. It was. I'm used to like epic fantasy, so and these settings and these worlds are really well fleshed out, and you feel, especially when I read Malazan, like I like get this comfort, like I sit down and I just feel like I'm there, kind of thing, because it has been so well described, and so layered with history, things like that. But I started reading this book, Philip K. Dick, the Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. And at the beginning, he wasn't giving me. I wanted to know what was going on in this world, and it was very quickly done. This is a shorter book, but once I got going, I really started to like it. I'm only about 20% into that, and I just finished Swan Song, which is
That's what I
going
wanted to
to
talk to you
be.
about. Yeah,
Yeah,
Swan
which is
Song
going to
is
be like
amazing.
my book of the year already. I was floored by the storytelling of that man. I can see how people relate him and Stephen King seem to be very similar, and writing kind of slice of life, American horror. But that book was just blew me out. It was great from
Have you
start to
read The
finish.
Stand?
No, so that's on the agenda next, because I kept after so I couldn't after I finished Swan Song. I marinated on it. I picked up these two books, and like Boy's Life was, and we have Matt in the comments. I think he just finished Boy's
Yeah,
Life by
Boy's Life is
McCammon.
also incredible.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I started listening to that, and then I stopped listening to it, and I just picked the book up. I was like, this is for me, because I tend to like to listen to like the first of a book and
I'm
see
the
if
same
I'm
way.
kind of into it, and then I drop the audio altogether. Unless I don't have time, unless I'm getting up and going somewhere, I'll throw that on. But then I'll just that book just started off fantastic. What a fantastic! I think it's a forward or prologue of that book was excellent. And I'm continuing on with Boy's Life, but I'm only like 20 pages in.
So those are the two McCammons that I've read and finished up until recently. I just finished my third McCammon that was not on the agenda at all. It's called I Travel by Night. Have you either of you heard of this one? I feel like it's
I've heard
maybe
of Stinger.
yeah, it's maybe his least well-known book series. It's two novellas, and there's like a bind-up ebook if people are interested that I got that are on sale. And the premise of it is there's this guy in the late 1800s, and he is a half vampire, so kind of like Blade, and he's a gunslinger, like like a Roland type figure, like a Western cowboy guy, and he's on a quest of revenge to kill the vampire who infected him and drink her blood, because if he drinks her blood, then that's like the cure, and he can be a human and die a human death. And it was like 150 pages, and I just like, it's free on Audible Plus, the graphic audio, and I listened to it, and I really really liked it. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants just like a quick kind of like horror Western revenge book. McCann's great.
Yeah, I'm floored by his writing. I mean, I know these are his two best books that I'm reading, and I started Boy's Life today, and I just kind of put it on to go out and do some errands. I was, driving. I'm like, dude, this guy's this guy might be for me. The writing really isn't flashy. I do like some poetic stuff, but at least in Swan Song, at the end, it was getting a little lazy-ish, I think, in book two of Swan Song. But a few things that I thought could have been done better. But and all in all, I really had minor critiques of that book. And then I picked up Boy's Life, and I was like, wow, this guy's pretty fucking good. I might have to start reading everything he's written. But again, I picked up Boy's Life, and I'm like, why don't I check out The Stand? Because I was really into that dystopian
I
world.
would maybe give it a little bit. The
Yeah,
Stand
I
and
think you're
the
right.
Swan Song are very similar on the surface. They're different enough that I don't think, unless you read them back to back, I don't think that it's gonna be like, oh well, this one's just this one, because there's enough differences, and they do different things with the setup. But man, the first half of each of those books are like very similar. I would say. Um, yeah, no, Boy's Life, if it makes you feel better or like excites you, the best chapter of that book, in my opinion, is the last chapter. I was just like highlighting quotes the whole time. It's excellent.
The prologue or the forward of this one was like he was explaining. The kid in it is explaining, why he wrote this book, and I was blown away some of the lines in that in that prologue, and this is awesome. But you get away from that after a while when you're telling a story. But McCammon tends to come back with some pretty impactful lines that really definitely stick out to me.
Yeah. Before we move on from McCammon, because I know Chris has not read him, so he's just sitting there
No,
patiently.
no, it's fine. He's definitely on the TBR though. But
I have
I did
also
read
read
this,
Speaks
and I
the
did read the
Nightbird.
stand, and I did read the stand. Yeah.
Oh, do you like The Stand?
Yeah. It was a long time ago. It was something me and my dad used to read Stephen King together. So we
that's
read
cool.
The Stand, and I is blown away, of course, But I was also in my late teens too, so I was pretty blown away by a lot of Stephen King at the time, for sure.
That was my favorite Stephen King book until this year. I recently reread 11/22/63, and I think that finally takes the cake on the reread. I think that book was incredible. Yeah, just King. I finished his bibliography last year, and I got a little burnt out on like the Kingisms. Like he just has a lot of similar things that he does. So if you read like 30 of his books in 1 year, and also the 30 that you read are like the books you put off for most of your life. So it's like, the trash heap mostly. I'm just like, oh my God, King, if you tell me about blue corduroy jeans one more time, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind.
Yes.
So then I finished the year, and I was like, maybe I should take a break from Stephen King. And then Ben from Books with Genghis Khan wanted to buddy read 11/22/63. And I was like, well, that's one of my favorite ones. And immediately I was like, oh no, this book is fire. It's absolutely. So it just, sometimes you just need that like perfect blend to get you back into it. Chris, what have you been reading?
I actually, as of today, I'm between books, but I did finish. Oh my God! Speak of the Devil, Riven Earth, by Zamar Akmar, who just said hello. So
that's a gorgeous cover.
Good timing. I love that cover. I know. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's the artist I went for my book too. So it's oh God, Andrew Malesky is, I think, his name. But very good artist. But this guy, it was a good book. It was a really good book, solid debut. I was very impressed. So I was working on a written review before I jumped on here, and I was really, really happy with this turnout. So
that's awesome. I've been hearing a lot of really good things about it, so I need to check it out. Also, just so everybody knows, Chris said it was a 0 out of 10 before we started. He's lying to you right now. Kidding, guys.
Negative stars, right? But otherwise, I have Harbinger of Justice coming up next. Andrew Watson, another author slash booktuber book coming up here. So I'll be reading that. And then ongoing, I have Memories of Ice, very slowly, but I'm enjoying it.
You've been reading Memories of Ice since
I've been reading Memories of Ice for a while. No, I did take a break.
It took me 5 months to read Memories of Ice. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah,
my book got destroyed.
And it's not because it's bad. I'm deliberately taking my time because there's other books I want to get into. And I just knew Memories of Ice was just going to take.
Especially like
forever.
My memory of Memories of Ice, the first part is like decently paced, and then it slows way down for a while. And then the second half of that book is just crazy. So like, are you in like
I heard it's one of the best entries. So and I can so far see that. I'm a little early in it, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm also, what's that?
Are you in part 2?
No, I'm still in part 1.
Oh, okay, yeah. Part 2 is the slow part to me. So
part 2 is the slow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not like it's bad. It's just introducing even more new characters, and then just standing around talking. You got to get who's who going, but it all works out in the end. The end of that book is very, very good.
Yeah, and then I'm also the other slow read for me is Shogun. So I usually have like multiple books going on all at the same time. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I dip and dab. I find that I read more that way. If I
I do too. Yeah.
I finished. You're doing a buddy read for this series right now. Actually, I just finished Of Darkness and Light on my drive today.
Oh, okay.
Better than the first book, but I was way more middling on the first book than you were.
I heard it gets better. I heard it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not teetering on a DNF in a bad way. It's just that like the first book, if I had no other information about the series, I would have DNF'd there, but I heard it gets better. So then the second book, I'm like, this is like a good book, but the next one's like, 1,200 pages. So I'm like, if the next one doesn't blow my socks off, I think I'm just done with the series, but it is really good. Like I have no complaints about it. It just doesn't have that spark that makes me like want to keep reading. You know what I mean?
I think I summarized it as enjoyable. It's just a entertaining read.
Yes. Yeah. I'm never bored with it.
And I agree. There's like there's elements that are you can find in other fantasy, but he does a couple twists and turns too that really surprise you too. So, and I think his friendships are done really well.
Yes, and that's actually one of the things.
Character interactions are really
go ahead.
Well. No, I was just going to finish. I think his interactions with character are done really well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What I like about it is it takes all the like classic fantasy stuff, but does it without all the little things that annoy me about each of those series. Like, it feels like Faithful and the Fallen, but they're not running and fighting for 2.5 books straight and calling each other like ma'ams and das. And then it feels like Wheel of Time, but the people actually feel like friends, which is like one of my biggest criticisms of Wheel of Time, which I don't believe for a second anybody is anybody's friend in that series. So it is an improvement in those aspects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dan, do you read a lot of self-pub, or are you kind of just
sticking to
the bigger stuff right now?
So yeah, just because I'm so green in the reading department, I have so many options. There's so many things out there that that have gotten high praise and things like that. And I even, I'm trying to get into literary fiction, try to read some classics now. So I'm all over the place, but I definitely like self-pub because, I'm that kind of guy. Like don't put a, the self-pubs can be peacocks. They can fly, like they can do whatever they want. And I love that. I love that, that they have that freedom to just, put out what they, something that they love and work toward. And they're definitely, I've run into some self-pub authors that are awesome. I've read, I believe Fletcher was self-pub at first, and Rob J. Hayes. I've read two of his books. Also, Wistful Ascending was a lot of fun. I've read that, and I'm going to read the second one of that, and I have Spirits of Vengeance. I haven't read that by Hayes yet.
That's the only one. So good.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
it's the one I still have to read too. I was
Yes.
blown away by Hayes, and I think that he was like the author that really got me into indie and self-pub books. Was Rob J. Hayes after reading Never Die and Pawn's Gambit. And I don't know why.
One of my favorite, or one of my first ones too, because I read Never Die like right when I kind of found BookTube, and that was one of the that's still one of my favorite self-help books. I loved Never Die. I really wanted that like beautiful broken binding edition. I just think it looks so good.
I got it.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah,
the broken binding shipping really just kills me. Like,
yeah,
plus the conversion to Canadian. It's like by the time I get a book, it's like $170 or something. I'm like, I just can't do that for.
Oh yeah, so. It's insane, but I love it for aesthetics.
Yeah, for sure. No, I get it. Evie, I finished day one morning on Spear Cuts Through Water today. Book is still really good.
What'd you think, bud? What'd you think?
Oh, I haven't finished the book.
But so you finished day one though, and you got through that weird transition into the story.
Yeah.
Right?
So at first I was struggling a little bit because the text in the middle, which for anybody who hasn't like read this book, there's like separated italicized text in the middle. It'll just be like 2 or 3 words. And at first I thought that was I guess I'm used to italicized text being like a thought or even just like an omniscient speaker or something like that. So I kept trying to figure out like who is saying this. I thought it was maybe like Lola speaking to like through the story. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And it was really, really tripping me up. And then I went to Discord and I asked about it, and everybody misunderstood me. And they were like, they thought I meant just like the regular italicized text. So they're like, that's just like the character's thoughts. And I was like, well, that really doesn't make sense. So then I was trying to so that just like got me up. But once I figured out that that's just like a stylistic like page break or whatever, then I was fine. That just tripped me up more than it needed to. But I think it's a really, really unique book. And the storytelling within the storytelling is really well done. And the prose is gorgeous. I love it. And he has a way of like, there won't even be really anything going on. I'll just be like a driver talking to a guy about like eggs or something, and then I'll just be like, oh, but tell me more. Like, I don't know, it's really well done. I've been taking it really slowly because I like really concentrate while I read it, but I'm really liking it. That was your like favorite book last year, right?
Yeah, that definitely made number 1 because it was just something that blew me away and was imaginative and unique, and that is something I love. Like I don't like people regurgitating the same story, just putting a slight twist on it and things. I like something very unique and that'll blow me away that I've never, thought about or experienced, or, even I'm reading Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and, a bounty hunter chasing androids. That's cool. I really haven't, other than obviously the movie with Harrison Ford, which my family loved back in the day. And I had to watch it 90 times. I remember that blonde hair crazy woman coming out of the plastic sheet. So I had a little bit of a bearing there, but it was just, I did watch that on TV a long, long time ago. And I know it's based on the book, but now the book is throwing me curves on some different things and some different avenues. So I really enjoy somebody just taking risks. I love when authors do that. And I think, you hear the author Simon Jimenez. He did, pitch this story to a publisher and then flipped it on its head and like took all these risks, and he was so scared to give it to his publisher, and they were like, "This is fantastic." At least that's what I got from his interview, and I love that, authors that take risks and not just take the risks, but stick the landing. It's something that I just enjoy.
I don't own the Vanished Birds physically, so I don't know like what his dedication is for that one. But I really liked how like all I've heard about Spear before I started is how unique it is and how it's really bold and how it's inventive. Nobody's ever seen a book like it. And then I open Spear Cuts Through Water, and the first thing I see is the dedication. He says, "This one's for me." And I just kind of like felt that he was just like, you know what? I'm going to write what I want to write and just hope.
Dude, I'm getting chills of you saying it. Just you're rereading that prologue again. Like, this is for me. And he just, he definitely wrote, there's a strong with our ethereal voice within the pages of that book. But and it was just fantastic. This is for me, and he took this huge risk, and I get chills talking about that, and I think it was just an amazing book. I can't wait to see what he has next.
He strikes me as, and I'm always really excited when there's a newer author that I end up really liking, because I'm like, I think of, Simon Jimenez might get there for me, but like, Christopher Rocchio or like Fonda Lee's a little bit older, but like still like in the newer firm. And I'm like, wow, I've already liked what they've done so well now. Now they have all this time that's like an unknown. They can do so many new things and see where they go. So, and with somebody with as inventive as Simon Jimenez, I think he'll do continuously surprising things. But what I was going to say to you, Dan, is I think you would really like Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wong. Is this on your TBR?
It was. Yeah, it was on Kindle. The cheapskate. It was on Kindle for free, so I downloaded it, but I never got to read. I read the first couple pages. I know he's walking up this mountain with a friend, and unfortunately, I was in the mood of tasting things, and unfortunately, that was one where I tasted, and I was like, let me try this, and I went in a different direction. But I believe it is on the TBR at one point. Yeah.
Chris, have you read it?
Yeah, it's the same. It keeps getting moved, and it's so high on my list right now, and I don't know why it keeps ending up getting moved. I think it's I kind of put myself in a pit with a lot of advanced reader copies for authors.
Oh yeah, I know the struggle.
Slow that down a little bit, and just try to get through some of those. But yeah, it's so high on my list. I love Asian inspired settings and all that. Mm-hmm. And I even took the gamble and I got the Kickstarter book for it too.
Oh, so I love hearing when people got it without, because I have it too, but I had already read it and loved the book. But like, just being like, I feel like I'm gonna vibe with this so much that I'm gonna buy it ahead of time.
Yeah, I feel like I want to show off my books. I want to go grab them and show them to you. Because listen, I never bought like special copies of books back in the day. I don't know if you've seen the end of my video. You definitely know I did not buy special editions of books, and now I can, and I do, and I have two, and I just freaking love them. And dude, Chris shared. One is yes.
Yeah. What's the other one?
Is Perdido Street Station.
Oh, go
and
get
it's gorgeous. I want to show you. Come on.
Yeah, I love that edition of Perdido Street Station. Yeah, I almost got that Perdido Street Station, and then I didn't get it because I haven't read China Mieville. And then the Scar looks so pretty that I'm like,
I already ordered it.
I ordered it too, Dan.
and
Chris right there tagged me. He's like, dude, did you see this? As soon as I saw it, I'm like, dude, broken binding. And I hit him up. I'm like, but unfortunately, I'm in the Iron Council, so hopefully I still like that. But yeah, this thing, the color palette is just fantastic here.
Cover.
Yeah, it is absolutely stunning. Signed and stuff, and I dig this. I just think that is just so cool.
It looks so good. The new like sprayed spade edges craze has just come out of nowhere, but I love it. Like I just think it makes the book look so much better.
So the question is, do you guys display them with the sprayed edges if you had them, or do you?
Dude, I have to have it on the side because I have to see the cover and the sprayed edges. So it's messed up. I don't put it like this in the bookshelf. It's alone. And it's tilted to the side so I can see both. And then I don't know what's going to happen when I get the second one because it's on order, should be on the way soon. I just hope I like the Iron Council because I'll probably get that one too.
That was another gamble for me.
This is the only Spade Edges edition that I have, which is House of Open Wounds by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And I love these Spade Edges.
Cool. Oh, man.
There's like a Triceratops with a rocket launcher on this and a frog that's on fire. I just love it. This is like one of my favorite books that I own. But
that's gangster. I love that.
When I put it on the shelf, I'm going to be basic and put it this way. And my reason is very simple, which is that I own the first book, but it doesn't have Spade Edges. And I just want them to match together. So, but maybe I'll get bored of it and I'll just switch it around sometime.
I gotta say, despite all the beautiful copies that the Broken Binding puts out, I think my favorite is I got the leather bound Threadlight, Zach Argyle's book, or I guess trilogy kind of thing,
Right.
and it's my favorite for sure.
So yeah,
Evie,
Evie
I
wanted
can't
to
talk. I can't
show
talk,
that
Evie.
up
Okay, just
there.
get over.
That's my Spear one, signed, limited edition.
Oh, cool. Did it come with
Oh, and
the sleeve too on that, Dan? The shiny sleeve? Looks
Yeah,
like
it's got the shiny sleeve, which I'm not feeling that as much, but it's going to protect it. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
this guy's going to be big. That's just my thing. I hope his next book is freaking fire because I'll buy that too.
No, yeah, it's definitely on my list. I know I think Philip is talking about the Vanished Birds on with a group of booktubers coming up here. And
Mike hating that book is so interesting to me. I just want to know like what his thoughts were.
Yeah, I want to read. I probably want to read that one first before this the Spear. But again, it's
Vanish. I think if you're going to jump into Jimenez, I think Vanished Birds got some bad press in the last week, which is definitely cool. There, certain things about it that wasn't action heavy for me. And when I read it, I was dying for some action. It is a little more thematically. It's more about the themes within that book, Vanished Birds. But Spear Cuts Through Water gets visceral. The action scenes are amazing. The bad guys are amazing. The good guys are cool. And that's. I really hope he hits us with another fantasy or sci-fi killer. When he drops his next book.
absolutely.
Spear came out in 2022 or 2023. Do you know? Evie will know. She'll
correct you.
We haven't read The Vanished Birds, Evie. I'm not saying it's bad. Actually, that's not true. I DNF'd it, but I only say that as a constant reminder to Evie that it makes her mad.
And this is the thing I like. I think right here is just the fact that people are they find a book that they just passionately just like feel, that just hit really well with, a reader. And that's so cool. When you get people like that just, wow, this author just really hit me. I read my first GGK book this year.
I was just going to mention GGK. Yeah,
A Song for
I need to do it. I need to jump. I hear his prose are gorgeous. Is gorgeous, and I hope to jump into them.
I have to say, Dan, I'm not entirely sure how you're going to feel about him. He's
Dan, I don't know.
He's very. I mean, his prose is just like next level good, and I know you really like good prose, so I don't think you're like going to dislike him. But a lot of his books are very slow. So that might be something you have to be in the right headspace. Yeah.
For me lately.
Like I've read maybe 8 or 9, I think 9 Guy Gavriel Kay books, and I love all the ones I read besides The Summer Tree. But I would say there's like one battle and like 2 other scenes that I would describe as action scenes across all of those books. So it is like really a lot more about like the characters and the political stuff. But man, the way he writes people is just fantastic.
Yeah, you might want to maybe read some comfort reads between them, the two, and you probably will enjoy like a GGK book, I think. But once in a while, I think from what I've seen, what you read, Dan, you surprise me on some of the reads that you do like. But yeah, I read The Song for Arborn and I was just blown away. I think so far that's been probably one of my book of the years. If I had to pick top 5 so far for the year, Song for Arborn would definitely be on that top 5. That was such an amazing start to my journey into that reader, and I plan to read Lions, I think, next. Is the plan.
Yeah, lots of people are reading Lions next month. Lions is really good. Song for Arbonne is my next read, but otherwise, Lions, I would say, is my second favorite GGK after Lord of Emperors, which is one of my favorite books of all time. But what I was going to say earlier about Sword of Kaigen before we got distracted is the reason that I think Dan particularly will really like that book is because of how unique it is. It reminds me of other books that you've talked about in the sense that you see so clearly that Emma Wong wanted to write a specific thing about a dark subject and deal with it in a really humane way, or like a really human way, I should say. but still do it her own way. And like, to me, it represents the best and worst of self-pub, because there's some things in that book that I think are pretty not good choices. Like, for instance, she makes up her own units of time in the book. So instead of saying like, oh, he'll be there in 6 minutes, or like, we'll be there in 6 floozy flops. And like, so you're spending time trying to remember what a floozy flop is instead of just like knowing minutes. And I'm like
a colloquialism, right?
Yeah. An editor would have told her to remove this, and I think it would have been like, you know, a more flowing thing. But on the other hand, the other narrative choices that she chooses to do are strictly something that like she wanted to do, and maybe an editor would have made her remove those parts or change those parts, and then it would have killed the heart of the novel. So it's like it represents so much of like the creativity in self-pub, that it's like you get to do whatever you want, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And like, that's my favorite self-pub book, because I just think it's beautiful. And I have 3 copies of it in different editions, because I just love it so much. So yeah, you guys got to read that one and tell me what you think.
Definitely.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, I like my books to like, if you can write a fantastic setting, a fantastic scene, a fantastic ending, and make it poetic in some way, man, that's just hitting on all. That's the trifecta right there that I'm looking for. I do love it when it's you know, when there are some purplish prose and things just hit you even harder when that writing is just so, you know, Simon Jimenez does it quite often. That blade dented bone, down to the blade dented bone. And there's just so many descriptions that are so gorgeous and written so well. And I think that's, for a book to really get me to 5 stars, either you have to blow me away with the concepts and land the concepts, but if your writing is on point and you have some amazing lines in a book, like, that's a 5-star book for me, even if I didn't love everything that happened in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're more of like a guy that really appreciates big swings and emotional catharsis.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a book
just
for
hits you in the
either of
soul.
you where you didn't, not necessarily you didn't think that you wouldn't like it, but it was outside of your comfort zone in a way that you were really, really hesitant, and it ended up being like a really fantastic read that you guys can think of?
Piranesi.
Piranesi is a good one. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to know until you get into it.
Yeah, and that's something I don't do often. I do not read the blurbs. I don't. I'll listen to maybe a review, and then and okay, he likes it. Cut the video off, and just, you know, I don't like knowing too much about it. And Piranesi was that book that I think that people really shouldn't say too much about it, because it'll ruin some of the things within the book. But yeah, I started getting into Piranesi. I was fascinated. Where the fuck are we? What is this place? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they're freaking statues that are depicted and with Piranesi, people, you know, there's something, you know, there's something subsurface in there that you have to figure out, right? And with Piranesi, it just, I kind of knew that was, you know, there was some sort of sub theme down there in the words, and you know, finding out what it was. And while we're here, it just kind of drew me right in. It was a mystery to me, and I needed it to be solved within the first, you know, the next 3 nights. And I kind of blew through that book. And when we got to the end, I was like, dude, this is fantastic. And it was some gorgeous writing too. And I just, that book definitely, I didn't think I was gonna like it. Everybody told me I was, and I was just like, let me give this a shot. And I was like, wow, that's freaking great.
Yeah, that was a book that was a huge surprise to me too, because I guess I expected it to be pretentious based on the way people talked about it, and like the cover, and just like maybe the blurb. I don't really know exactly what it was, but I was like, oh, this is gonna be some pretentious stuff that makes me roll my eyes. And I
Lolita is pretentious, in my opinion. Lolita, but it kind of has to be. You know, and it's just like, do I have to look this word up again? I don't even like what this dude's talking about. But, you know.
I have the audiobook for that solely because it's narrated by Jeremy Irons, but I'm really like, I got the audiobook like 6 years ago and I haven't listened to it. So I've been clearly kicking it down the road, but one day I want to at least try it because it's one of those books that I hear is a good book to experience, even if it's really, really rough to get through. So is that your first like Russian literature?
Yeah, like I'm the doors are open for me, and I would say I heard a lot about Blood Meridian too, and at first it's not I really enjoy books that make me think on a different level, and make me try to understand what the writer's purpose is. So I definitely want to grab more literary fiction reads, but Blood Meridian was one of those. I was just like, wow, what beautiful writing, and there's something under this. I have to find out what it is, and that was what it was like with Piranesi too. Like, what is this writer trying to express to me? But with McCarthy in that book, he didn't give the reader nothing. So that's why the book is so discussed, because he didn't really tell you why he wrote this. So there's all these, guesses and theories as to what he means by this. What is he talking about by this? And that book still fascinates me. It still weighs on my brain. And there are certain things like that with underlying themes, but there's also like amazing action scenes that are just burned into my brain as well, like some of Rob J. Hayes' stuff.
Yeah, I think about the ending of Blood Meridian a lot, and I really want to do a reread so that I can like contextualize the ending with everything else that happens because it is
Let
one
me
of the
know when you
better
do a
endings.
reread. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Chris, have you read any Blood Meridian?
No. It's Boy's Life is I know on my TBR, but that's all I got.
It's a different author.
But it's a different author, right? But from what you guys were talking about,
I see. Yeah. Cormac McCarthy is just so difficult, like to recommend, like because it'll either work or it won't work, and it's really tough to guess.
Ready for him yet? I don't know if I am ready for him.
Start with The Road. It's
The
quick.
Road.
It's that's the one I read. Like I read The Road when it came out, so I would have been 14 maybe. Maybe objectively too young to be reading The Road. I don't know, but it maybe caused a little screws in my head to go loose. But I really love that book, and it's still my favorite from him. But definitely a very inventive guy, and like the way that he writes a sentence is just like nobody else. Like Child of God. I think I didn't enjoy a single second of that book, but I can't say I didn't like the experience of reading it because. It's about like the most depraved individual that I've ever had the displeasure of reading about, but it's somehow like compelling, and you almost feel bad for this guy just because of the way he's written and like how McCarthy is exploring the theme of like, even though this guy is horrible and should be in jail, he's still a human being. Like he's just like you in a lot of ways, and you're like, oh man, this is dark. So. Definitely, you have to be in the right headspace for McCarthy. Matthew are absolutely not pretentious. That is ridiculous. So, what do you guys? What are your policy on DNFs? Because I feel like some people power through a book no matter what, and other people they get 30 pages into a book and they're like, absolutely not.
Ain't nobody got time for that. No way. I mean, I'm too old to waste my time on book. I don't read fast enough to waste my time reading the whole book. And like literally, I just DNF'd the book after I read the first 2 books of the series and was just like, I don't like where this is going. What's this author doing? And I just like, yeah, I won't find out how it ends. I'm good.
What series is that?
Justice of Kings.
That's a good series to DNF because you know what? 3rd book ain't about it.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying, man. I just I didn't like the main character by that 3rd book, and there was a relationship aspect I wasn't digging.
That's the worst part of that series, I think, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, it's a shame because I really like Justice of Kings, and it just didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Justice of Kings was really strong first.
Yes,
Did you continue,
definitely.
Chris?
What's that?
Did you continue after the first one?
I haven't picked up the third one, so I don't know what that says.
Okay, but you read Tyranny of Faith?
Just read the first two, because for me the first two were solid fours. You know,
Yeah.
I thought I loved. You know, Swan did some excellent things there.
Yeah. I agree that second one, it was like the second half was kind of, I feel, veering away from what I liked so much about Justice of Kings. And I was like, kept hoping that let's get back to that.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't read the third book even, because the second half of Tyranny of Faith, it's like take that but multiply that by 50, and that's the third book. And it's not that, you know, scaling up from like a small town murder mystery to like eldritch creatures trying to take over the world is an inherently bad scale. I think he just does it very fast. Like in the third book, all of a sudden there's just like 7 different types of creatures fighting giant battles with like demons. I was like, where did all this come from?
That's what I was going to say. I think for me, it was like, I felt like I was reading, like, am I still in the same series? Did I pick up a second series? And if it was a separate series that he wrote of that, I might be more like intrigued, but I did miss the detective murder aspect of it. And
he did great. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, to add to that, I did the, immersion read with like audio with it, and the audio was horrendous. The female audit, the female spokesperson for that audiobook was just bad, and just kind of like really took me out of it a little bit too. So it was tough.
That's brutal.
But yeah, I don't know where if I'm gonna finish that or not. I haven't been really enthused about picking up the third, but I did love that first book though so much.
I liked the first and the second book. I thought the second book was teetering a little, and we were going into 97 different astro planes, and I was just like, he was doing too much, in my opinion, and he could have chopped it down, spent a little more time describing things, kept to the politics, kept to this, interesting separation of church and state in this new world of them governing the people. I thought that was interesting, though. There was a court scene that I just felt like it was ripped right out of Law and Order. Like they were dropping certain things, like you don't say this to a witness, and I'm like, I've seen this on Law and Order like 90 times, and I was just like, yeah, he could have done a little of his own thing, but that's what I thought his politics were good. I thought his eldritch horror was done very well. It was just, the direction he was taking this book, I think he was trying to do too much. I think he could have, kind of drug this out a little. And again, I didn't like the relationship between our main character and our other main, Von Volt. I didn't like that. There was just
We're
didn't
totally
feel
on the
natural.
same page about this series.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I guess I don't like. I think for me, I've been lucky so far in getting back into reading and not DNFing books. And I agree. I think don't waste your time, especially for slower readers like me. I definitely can't be wasting my time reading a book that's not clicking with me. Thankfully, I really haven't had any books where I had put down, like, I usually like a book enough to finish it, but there's been a few where I have no really desire to continue, like with a second book if it's part of a series. I think the other one that comes to mind is 3 Body Problem. It didn't land for me.
Bro, try the second book. I gave
that's what everybody's saying.
Everybody says that, but I feel like everybody says that about like a lot of the series.
I know, but I was on your side with this one. I really did not like the 3 Body Problem. I thought the science was just monologuing and just tons of like dry, bland characters just being like, oh, if this happens, then there's like so much time just spent like in a VR where you're just hanging out with like, you know, Mangdi or something. Like, I don't know, I don't remember who, but I'm like, why are we doing this? Second book is much better. I
Okay.
still think the characters are never like wonderful, but the second book's a lot better. I would like,
Okay.
I'd say
I'm very
read the second book
character
at some
driven,
point.
so but
Read like 60 pages, 50 pages,
okay.
and see if the direction because the second book starts off telling you about these two characters. So it starts off with just these two guys and their lives, and that's kind of like the best character part of the series. And then it explains where the rest of the stuff is going to go. And if that clicks with you, then I think you're on for the whole series. And if not,
Okay.
DNF.
Fair enough. Okay.
It took me.
You know
4
what?
years.
You know what though? I actually was very entertained by the TV series.
Yes, that's how I started.
Actually,
I thought it was good.
Very entertained. I was like,
TV
where was this in the book? Because I was bored to tears in the book.
The TV show, I think, is a really excellent adaptation, and like just like a good show. Like I think it's actually a better adaptation than a show because, as somebody who's read the whole trilogy, it's almost unfilmable book by book. Like to do that, it just wouldn't work well as a TV show. And they did a lot of really smart choices to like merge some aspects and merge some characters across the 3 books to make it more cohesive. And they pulled some stuff like the stuff with the wall facers. That's the plot of the second book. So, you know, they pull all this stuff together to try and make it like a more cohesive, unified story. And I think it was much better than the first book by a lot. So we're on the same page there too.
Cool deal. All right. Fair enough. I will let you know when I start that second book.
Yeah, we'll get back to it in 5 years. I understand. Yeah, TBR's long.
Yeah.
Do either of you read a lot of sci-fi? Besides, I know like Dan's reading Philip K. Dick now, but was that kind of like your first foray?
No, so I went hard into a space opera on my first foray and just went Sun Eater. And
oh right, I forgot you do love Sun Eater, yeah.
Yeah, but you know the first book was it was okay. But once you got that second book, man, that Howling Dark, woo, that was right up my alley. Like you know, once you get to the outer limits of the universe here, it's like, you know, it's like the lights went down and a nice dark filter just went over the whole scene. And you get into like these humanoids and things like that. And the painted man, I thought that guy could have been, you know, I don't want to talk too much about it, but, you know, the Howling Dark, I thought really just, it blew this series up for me.
Same.
However, I'm you know, I'm starting to get a little annoyed with Rockio's writing and you know, how long these books are and how, you know, dramatic our main character can be and everything needs to be spoken on. I'm going to be reading the 4th book soon. I'm going to start immersion reading that one real soon. I have the physical copy as well. Philip K. Dick is my next sci-fi, I believe. And then, you know, I really got into this, you know, when I read Swan Song, I think that was my second dystopian world. And I love that. I thought that was great. But I did Station 11 also. That was all right. That was very slow paced. It was very character centric. But the ending, man, the ending was freaking brutal. And I love the ending of that book. And because I started the show and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I read the book. And the book came out before COVID. Like that blew my mind. I could not fathom that this book came out before COVID because we all lived it, you know, and you're sitting there reading it and you're like, wow, this had to come out after, right? And nope, it was like 2011 or something that came out and it just blew my mind. And, you know, the writer did an excellent job of making me feel grateful for everything that I have and what's important and, you know, what's important in life and, you know, what we think is important in life. And when now all that's taken away, you really find out what is. And I just, that, you know, there's a kind of a traveling trope in there. I thought that was a cool premise. And it was definitely, the book meandered a lot, but I really liked the ending of it. and I really like the message that was delivered by the author. And she's a great writer. I'm going to look into more by Emily St. John Mandel. She definitely captured my eye with that book.
Yeah, I had a weird experience with that book because I watched the show first, and there were some aspects of the show I really loved, like 10 out of
In the
10,
beginning,
brilliant. And then there was
yeah,
one aspect of the show that I hated. I thought was extremely pretentious. I hated every scene depicting that storyline. And I was like, well, maybe it'll be different in the book. And I read the book, and what I wasn't expecting was the stuff that I didn't like wasn't in the book at all. But neither was the stuff that I really loved. So instead, it was just the middle of the, like, not the middle of the book, but the middle of my experience with it. It's like all the parts I was okay with were in the book. So it's like it didn't have the highs or the lows of what I was expecting. So I just kind of thought it was fine. And
it
mostly
did.
like,
Yeah,
why are they just kind of wandering around reciting Shakespeare? Like, I don't know. It was definitely an expectations problem because I went in thinking like, these are the things that are roughly going to be in the book, and it absolutely wasn't. So.
But yeah, for me, sci-fi, I'm with Dan. Actually, me and Dan read Halloween Dark as a buddy read with Nate, I believe, Books with Nate. And wow, I was blown away by especially Halloween Dark. Same thing. I have not continued. I'm still planning to, of course, but cycling through series and all that. I also like the Red Rising series very much. I'm up to Morningstar on that one. Iron Gold would be my next one for that. So it's kind of like the new series.
Right.
Yeah, there's I want to hit, I'm kind of in this cyberpunk mode right now. So I want to hit a lot of the classics. I know Dan just mentioned do Android Stream. So probably start with that one. And I also have Neuromancer, Snow Crash, kind of waiting on the horizon. Just kind of hitting a couple of the classics. Indie wise, I just finished not too long ago Molten Flux. It's kind of a very Mad Max vibe to it.
I've heard of this one.
It's debut. Well, he's got 3 books out now, but Jonathan Weiss, I was really impressed with his first entry here, Molten Flux. Like I said,
Adding it to my want to read.
This whole Mad Max vibes to it, very rustic, and just dirty, you can tell, and desert sort of way. It was a fun read, and so getting a little more into that dystopian sci-fi to mix up with the kind of like what we have with Sun Eater and Red Rising, which I don't really classify as dystopian.
No, yeah, definitely a different subgenre of sci-fi.
Yeah.
I just read Service Model by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and the premise of that is everything's been like automated. So like everybody has like, a little AI butler and an AI house and all this stuff. And the butler, wakes up one day and kills his master while he's shaving. And then I
have that on order.
Like, oh no. D&D. He's like, how is that possible? How could I have killed my master? I can't. So then he becomes this whole thing. He's like, what to do with it? And it's like, it's not quite a satire, but it toes the line in like that sardonic humor while also like exploring what like an apocalypse might look like if we had also had all these like AI sentient robots and stuff. And that was a really good book. Really interesting.
He's an author I need to read soon.
Yeah. Same here.
The good thing about Tchaikovsky is you just have so many options, and like
I was going to say he's all over the place. Yeah.
I feel like Dan will really like City of Last Chances because again, it's that lush prose, it's that interesting structure, it's that interesting characters, like crazy world building, all the stuff that seems like you like. That seems like a home run for you. And Chris, I feel like you might really like Empire Black and Gold. The
what's it called?
Shadows of the Apt, his 10-book fantasy series. I think you'd both like it, but I feel like Chris would really like it. It's really cool. It's like each of the people are like a different. They're called Kindens, And so it's like ant kindin, you know, beetle kindin, whatever. And then so they're people, but they have like kind of an attribute of a certain insect. Like the beetle kindin are like, you know, really sturdiest and they're like hard workers and stuff like that. And the ant kindins, like they're really like they're community focused and stuff like that. And the premise of the books are the Wasp Empire wants to take over all of the like different city states. And so all of the other ones have to start coming together to like fight the Wasp Empire. And I'm reading the second book right now, and it is really good. And it's like military. I would say it's military fiction, but still like has a good amount of just like political intrigue and stuff too. So
nice. I like that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just looked it up and added it to the old TBR. 11 books, you say, or 9 books, or
10.
10?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's a short story collection in there too. So, you know. Tchaikovsky's so hard to catch up with. I think he's like at 50 something books, and I'm like, Jesus, man, I don't know how I can catch up with you.
Children of Time is what I was going to start with.
Children of Time is an excellent starting point. Yeah,
my spouse
Children
is
of Time
reading
was my first.
My spouse is reading Children of Time right now.
My spouse is reading it too. Yeah. She really hates spiders, so I was really shocked when she turned to me one day and she's like, "I would really like to read Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky," and I was like, "We have it right over here. You can read it." So, but yeah, no, he's a great author, and one of my other favorite authors that I think you both had middling experiences on is Brandon Sanderson. What have you read?
I read the Mistborn trilogy. I did not go into the second. I don't think I would like the second, just from what I've heard. If your comedy don't land with me, man, it's not a good thing. But listen, I thought Mistborn was so unique, man. What a fantastic magic system. I loved it. I wouldn't say I was over the moon for it because I read Mistborn and then I picked up First Law and I was like, that's where I'm at. You know, this is where I need to be, is First Law. But you know, the Stormlight Archive again was just so much exposition and so much unneeded things. I believe it. You know, when we're lagging, I need the story to move on. And I DNF'd the third book in the Stormlight. Why am I not thinking of it? Oathbringer. So
man.
We went to this place, and I was like, "Why are we here? I don't want to be here."
Oh, jeez.
You know, everybody probably knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that gets a lot of people, but I think Oathbringer has the best ending of the series. But no, yeah, I totally get it. I just reread Oathbringer, and in my head, it was like I looked at my Goodreads like dates that I read them, and Oathbringer was by far the one that took me the longest to read. And on my reread, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember why." Like it slows right down in the middle. But that is a shame because I do think it has the most bombastic ending. But you know, I get it. Like sometimes,
I was like waiting for the Sanderlanche to come, and I froze to death before the avalanche hit me because I was done. I was just like, I'm out, man. Are you kidding me? I want this story to progress, and it didn't. But you know, I feel like I was like, should I just go get it on audio and finish it up? But yeah, Sanderson. I'll probably end up doing it at some point. I did like the characters. Dalinar, I think, is a great character. So, you know, I'm definitely will. And I was gonna try one of these new ones, Sunlit Man or something, because I can get it free on Hulu or whatever. Hoopla, I mean. And listen to it, but you know, I got so many other shit that I'd rather listen to and get to.
Yeah, soft DNFs are almost more insidious than hard DNFs. Like when I know I'm never coming back to a book for sure, it's very liberating. But then when I'm like,
I think I might take Kevin's advice over here. I might take that advice.
I don't think Kevin's right here. I think Kevin's wrong. But look who we have in the chat here. We have Rekindled Reader.
I saw that.
What is going on, Theo?
What's up, Theo?
I'm back, Theo.
Theo just pops in for 9 minutes at a time, and we're all like, and then he leaves again for a month.
At least he pops in, you know. And it's like when you finally see his comment, you're like, you're talking to him, but you know he's probably already gone. He's already in somebody else's Discord. He ghosted, man. He just stopped in the hey dudes, I'm out. Peace.
So,
oh wow! Look, now we have a second comment from this guy.
Oh, there it is.
A second comment. We're doing good. We're doing
wow.
good. If we got a second comment from Theo, boom, this stream is killing it.
I'm glad to see him alive. I just like just
You see that? There's the peace sign already.
He has 2 pages of James Islington to go read. I was giving him shit. He's been reading the 3rd book in Shadow of What Was Lost trilogy for like 2 years. He's like, I haven't DNF'd it. And I'm like, I think you've DNF'd it. And he's like, no, I haven't. I'm like, well, how far are you? He's like, 600 pages. When was the last time you picked it up? 9 months ago. You've DNF'd it.
Yeah,
like,
that's a DNF. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back to it one day, like you and Oathbringer.
Laugh out loud. No, for
and
me, I don't know. For me, Brandon Sanderson was I haven't. I mean, I thought he did okay with finishing The Wheel of Time. I thought he wrapped that up pretty well. He kind of shares the same voice as Robert Jordan, I think, a little bit. So I'll give him that. Mistborn. I think my problem with Mistborn is I'm okay, open to the, I guess we classify hard soft magic system, and I'm open to hard magic, but I think it was just too instructional to me when I was reading it. Like, it felt like as there was an action scene playing out, he's explaining how that magic works. Like, it was like, this is how the magic works while this action scene is playing out. And it just wasn't really clicking with me too well. But I don't know. And it just didn't really compel me to pick up the next book to the Mistborn. Laura is telling me that I will like Warbreaker, so I'm willing to give that a chance. I'm not done with Brandon Sanderson by all means, but I do also have Tress up there as well. We'll see, where I go, but I'm not really in a big hurry.
Warbreaker, it's not like suddenly a soft magic system, but it's much softer than Mistborn. Like, it doesn't feel tutorial-esque at any point. It's really like, just, here's the things that these different
I don't know. I don't need
chill.
magic explained to me. That's what magic to me is like something that's unexplainable. Now, I don't like when people just use it for convenience sake, like, oh, our main character is in trouble, let me suddenly be able to do this magic thing to get him out of this predicament. I don't like things like that. But I like mystery, I guess, a little more, and I don't really need it explained, I guess, is just kind of
that's
my
interesting that you describe it in that terms, because I would say while there's not as much mystery in the magic, there's still like a lot of mystery going on with everything else. Like, I think Mistborn's mysteries are some of the
fair enough.
People talk about the magic in that series, and like, I think it's cool, but the reason I like Mistborn is I really like the characters, but also like when everything clicks into place in that ending, and then especially the ending of the trilogy. Actually, all 3 Mistborn books of the first era, I think, have really, really good endings. I like all 3 of them, and it's like you can see how much he plotted all of the like intricate little story beats and like solved all the mysteries.
I'm impressed with Brandon Sanderson, what he's created. This whole like
his imagination,
this Cosmere verse, whatever he's created. That to me is a lot of dedication to your craft and your work, and that is why. Despite Mistborn maybe not landing for me very well, I respect everything he does, both for getting people to read and just in community, what he does for in other indie authors and Trad Pub, just trying to get everybody out there. I have the utmost respect for Brandon Sanderson, and I think that's why I would continue to read his work, and hope one of his books lands for me really well, because I want to sing his praises along with everybody else.
Chris has to say that because the Sanderson fandom will come for him anyway.
Yeah, I know.
If he doesn't,
yeah, I'm watching all my subs drop as I speak. But
I'd rather read Malazan, to be honest. Like if I'm having my choice, to pick up Oathbringer again, I'd rather pick up House of Chains, which I just did, which I am actually starting to read.
So mid. It is so
Is
much
it?
worse than Oathbringer. It is like 100% worse. To my taste. A lot of people are obviously going to disagree.
I've heard the
But
guy in it is some people's favorite character. Oh man, what's
he's
his
the best
name?
part of that book for sure. The first part following Karsa is a lot. I think you'll really dig it. I think a
Karsa,
lot of
that's right.
people really dig it after you get into it. I didn't mind the first part at all. I just found I mean, without spoilers, I just think the book kind of goes. It spins a lot of wheels, and then when it ends, it doesn't really satisfy me personally and how it ends. But it's only book 4 out of 10. I gave it a a 3.5 star, but I've given the other 3 books 5 stars. So I still have faith in the Malazan train. That one was just kind of a little.
How far are you in it, Kyle?
I start Midnight Tide soon, which was the
Okay.
5th book. Kev is out here speaking lies, but that's fine. It's funny. I was buddy reading Malazan with Bookborn, and she same as me. She liked the first 3 books, but I think she struggled more with the length of time it took her to read them versus she might read them and it would be like a 4.5 star, whatever. But it took her a month, and that was a little bit of a struggle for her. And so I went ahead and read House of Chains to see if I thought the child harm stuff in that would bother her too much. But during that time, she started reading A Song of Ice and Fire. So then she went and she read all of A Song of Ice and Fire. Now she's reread Game of Thrones. It's just funny because she's like, oh, I would just much rather be reading this series. Like, I already want to reread it. And I'm like, I just kind of lost her because it's like, oh, I guess I'm just trucking on alone. But she read my favorite series. So I guess I still won in that scenario. Are you guys Martin fans?
Oh
What?
yeah. Like
what was it?
Yeah.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Are you George R. Martin fan?
Oh, absolutely. Storm of Swords is probably if I had to rank a book of all time, still probably right up there, number 1.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's what it should be.
I want to do a reread, actually.
Yes.
I mean, and unfortunately, like House of the Dragon's getting me souped to do a reread of the original. I haven't even read it. I think I read Duncan Egg in a past life for a little bit. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know how I read half of that book, but anyway. But yeah, I'd like to do a reread of A Song of Ice and Fire because I think he just it's Malazan. It's very you can get really into that world. You can really get lost within that writing and within that world. And his politics. I don't think I've ever come across anybody with better writing politics than him at my stage now. Abercrombie did it pretty well, but this is just I thought A Song of Ice and Fire has to be at least my top 3 series that I have read.
Yeah, sorry, I was just reading Ben with his bad takes, which is that he doesn't love Storm of Swords, but he actually liked Clash of Kings better, which is just tomfoolery. I'm gonna go egg his house.
There's a lot of people that like Clash of Kings.
Yeah, somebody just said that on the stream.
Laura said
that's who it was. Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares about Laura's opinion, guys. She doesn't count. Laura likes all of the same types of books as me. Like, I looked at her 5-star list or whatever. Every single one of those books I gave 5 stars to, but her individual rankings of series, we have never agreed ever, not once. And I just find that so interesting.
I respect her opinion enough. I might try a romance that she's suggested.
Yeah, she's got me to consider doing.
I bought it for my wife. Loves funny story. The author is escaping me.
Oh,
for
Emily
some
Henry.
reason. Yes. So yeah, I got it for my wife, and my wife is enjoying the book as well. And it's just sitting there, and I kind of look at it. I'm like, I'm not a rom-com kind of dude, but I might give it a shot. We'll see.
Yeah, I read. So I always give people shit jokingly that saying you don't read a genre, like you should at least try it. You know what I mean? And then I don't read romance, and the reason I don't read romance is I get romance in all these other books. So I was like, all right, I should stop my own hypocrisy and read some romance. So I read The Notebook, this month, which was extremely not good. I don't understand. Like, that's the only one where I'm like, I don't understand. Like, okay, the premise of it is you're here for the love story. I just thought it wasn't an interesting love story, even on the face of that. So I didn't like that one. But last year I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I thought that was like enjoyable. Like, again, not something that I would go out of my way to read, but I understand why if you wanted to read a love story, like I thought that was like a well-written, compelling book, just not really what I would gravitate towards. So yeah, I don't understand the Notebook whatsoever, but I can see the appeal of some of them.
Yeah, the romance I like's more like Mickey and Mallory from like Natural Born Killers. Like that's the romance I want to read. Like somebody needs to write that book in a fantasy setting, and I'm about it. Like I'm trying to think of some of the romances in some of the fantasy that I like, and Nine Fingers and that angry woman. I love that. They were just like, let's get this done. And then they start falling in love with each other. I'm like, that's it. That's how it's done. That's real. You know what I mean? But in romance, yeah, it has to be a darkish type of romance, and that I kind of dig.
Kev, what I like about you is how unpredictable you are, because you'll just read the darkest shit known to man. And you'll be like, that was great. And then you'll just be like, Nicholas Sparks is good, though. And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you're uniquely yourself.
Very eclectic, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was going to say earlier is I know that Martin is my favorite because I did a reread last year, and I already want to do another reread. Like, it never stops. I'm like, I always want to do a reread.
And another reason why he's good is, in a sense, even if he never finishes, you're still fulfilled by reading just the 5 books.
Amazing books, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of course, you want it to be finished, but you still feel okay. You still feel okay.
I need to know what happens to Catelyn, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, that weird. What is going? All right, I don't want to ruin. Not like the 10 people that might be on the stream don't know what goes down in these books. I would be shocked if one of you don't. But I need to know what happens to that Walking Dead of her. What's going to go on with that?
I don't know.
Especially because the show didn't do it at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I think
I love those parts though.
And I loved every one of them. I don't feel like there was one where I was like, I thought all of them were strong in their own right.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite series, so I love them all. It's funny because I give Dance a lot of shit because I think Dance is like, if you're talking objectively, Dance is the worst one because it doesn't have an ending and it is edited poorly. So like on an objective level, that one is less good than the previous 4, but I still love it. And then Storm is just like, that high crescendo of all the stuff happening. But I totally agree with Ben here. The most impressive book that I think George has ever written is Fire and Blood. It's not my favorite. It's not like the highest echelons of his books, but just in terms of like sheer how hard it is to pull off what that was, Fire and Blood has no business being as good as it is. Is
that the one that people keep saying is like a history book?
Yeah. So the premise of it is, it's a maester writing a history for Tommen of the Targaryen reign. So it's an in-text book. Like the book Fire and Blood would theoretically exist in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Would they consider that epistolary, a letter form? Is that what that type of writing is? Epistolary?
Maybe, but it's because of the textbook. It's not like journal entries. I don't know. It might, but it reads exactly like a textbook in the sense that while he's talking about it, he will explain his sources. So he'll be like, well, if we take the testimony of Mushroom the Jester, he says this happens. But, we read, Septon Orgyle's memoir, and he says this. So, that's exactly how history books read. So you're getting all these, like, different...
You're right. Mm-hmm.
You're getting all these, like, different types of ways scenes can go down. And it's, it's just so compelling, all the crazy stuff that's happening. And because you only have like what he would have as documented sources. So if nobody wrote about it or was in the room when it happened, you only have the hearsay of what happened afterwards. So they might be like, 2 people went in a room and then one of them died. And it's like, what happened in that room? And you don't know. And that's what kind of House of the Dragon is doing. It's like filling in those gaps. Very, very good book. Yeah. Dan is spoiling you on, I think, Storm of Swords, but he's just kidding.
Do you have predictions on where, if Winds of Winter happens, where he's going to end with that?
I think it is going to approximately end where the show ends in season 6, which is, I mean, again, I don't want to spoil things, but the stuff that happens with the Boltons at the end of season 6 and the stuff that happens in King's Landing at the end of season 6, I think some form of those events are going to happen at the end of Winds of Winter. I don't think it'll be exactly the same, but those are, I think,
Arya goes gangster on everybody and takes the crown. That's my girl. And you know, little man's her hand. And she's just gonna run it.
I don't see that happening, but I would love it. That would be fantastic. Is Arya your favorite character?
I mean, the Hound. It's so hard to pick, you know. So
Dude,
I really enjoy the
I just
Hound.
asked you who your favorite character was, and you went to the Hound straight off. Fuck yeah, dude!
Straight,
like,
yeah.
So
like,
many people like just sleep on him. He's like in my top 5 for sure.
I love the Hound too. Yeah,
he's so good. He's so broken. You kind of understand why he's such a dick and an asshole, and then he's just badass, dude. I'll take it. You know, I'll take another chicken or whatever that scene was in the book. It was freaking fire. It was great, man. It was great.
Yeah, that was one of the things where like the actor was so perfectly cast for that role.
Oh yeah,
in the show. Yeah, no, really good. My favorite is of course Jamie, who I think is fantastical.
Yeah, I love Jamie's arc. It's weird when you can cheer for a guy that pushed a little boy out of a window. I don't think I'm spoiling anything.
I mean, he lost his hand. I mean, he didn't kick a dog, did he? Does anybody get that yet? I guess did anybody watch the first episode?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, all right, good.
I don't know. I must have like looked down at the moment. I heard a yip, and then that's all I heard.
Yeah.
Freaking dog didn't do nothing, man. That's messed up. You know,
it's so funny.
I don't want to spoil
that scene, and then people are just upset about the dog.
Yeah,
not
the end.
That happened at the end of the show, but the dog.
Yeah. It reminds me of like
the dog is what pissed me off. I gotta be honest. You know, I have a feeling.
I'm an animal lover. I'm like, was that necessary?
Yeah. But that's the thing. They're not getting paid to kick the dog. That was just his own little flavoring. It reminds me of like in Game of Thrones near the end when something happens and then Jon doesn't say goodbye to Ghost. And everybody was just so mad. Like there's all this other stuff going on, and all the memes at the time, people were like,
hey,
he didn't pet Ghost. And I'm like, no, man, I felt that. I was mad in that scene.
Yeah, those CGI dragons take all the budget, so they can't have the CGI.
No, that's exactly what it was.
Dire wolves.
Ben, I don't need an ending for A Song of Ice and Fire. I would love it. I will, like I was telling my wife this a while back, I will cry the day that George R. R. Martin dies, like for sure. Because like then that's like that would be me mourning the fact that I never get an ending, because anything's possible while he's still around. You know, it's unlikely, but it's possible.
That'll have you thinking about that book till the day you die, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He doesn't wrap that up. You're up here. Like, I'm going to wrap this up here no matter what. Like, we're going to figure this out. And then you're going to share it with the dude this is what I got. I got Arya taking this dude out and taking the crown.
Listen,
yeah, so definitely keep on your mind. If we don't
get an ending, I'm going to New Mexico and I'm tying up Daniel Abraham and I'm getting him to tell me, because Daniel Abraham knows some shit that we don't know.
Yes. Daniel Abraham, man.
That I have to get into him actually.
Oh, you have to, dude.
He's the will of the many? Is that
Long Price Quartet?
No. That's and it has like music magic, right? That's right up my alley. I think it's
is it
based off of
the
music.
Dagger and the Coin, and then I mean he co-writes The Expanse.
And then he's doing the Kithamar trilogy now, which
the Kithamar
I've had mixed feelings on, but
Long
Price Quartet was fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't think he's gonna pass that. I haven't read Dagger and the Coin yet, but Long Price Quartet just A+, and then Kithamar I'm okay. It's nowhere near as where Long Price Quartet is from.
I just bought. I went to Winnipeg today, which is like the big city near me, and they have a lot more bookstores. So I hit up a bunch of bookstores, like used bookstores and stuff. And so I got a ton of books that I'm really, really excited about. But one of the books I just bought was the last 2 Expanse books. So I'm slowly collecting them all.
I'm slowly collecting them too. I got about
Yeah.
4, I think. I got 4. Yeah.
I have
I
like
started
the first
watching
4
the show.
and the last 3. So just gotta.
I started watching the show, and I was like, this is
The
pretty
show's
good,
The
man.
show's really good.
Yeah, and I didn't watch enough of it because I was like, I think I'm gonna read this. So I
I'm
only
not
did
sure
like the
if I want to
first
watch
season.
the show first or read it. I might read it first because that's normally what I do. But I hear the show's really good.
They got
you know, the writers are writers on the show, which is always a good thing for like the general adaptability of it.
And then I guess they're starting a new series,
Mercy of Gods. I have an arc of that, and I want to read it, but I will probably.
Part of me wants to just read that, so I'm up to date at least with that, rather than trying to get.
Yeah, but then when the second one comes out, you have to reread the first one. You know, like everybody does that. But no, I get.
But that's how I read series anyway.
Yeah, the new shiny is always so irresistible. What are you planning to read in the next couple of weeks, Chris, after you finish your current reads?
I'm going to jump on the Janny Warts bandwagon, and I'll be reading either Cycle of Fire trilogy or To Ride Hell's Chasm. One of the two.
Nice. Well, the Cycle of Fire trilogy, I sampled the first chapter of that a few months ago, and that seems like a more straightforward type of style. And I also sampled when I bought To Ride Hell's Chasm, I sampled the first chapter of that, and that is much more elevated prose. So maybe just like try a few lines of each one and see which one you're more in the mood for, because they are very different, at least just based off the first chapter of the writing style, very different.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to do To Ride Hell's Chasm because it's one book and better than probably diving into another series. But I do want to eventually.
Such a badass title name too. I love that title.
Yeah, I love the title.
Very catchy. Yeah.
Do you guys have like spreadsheets of how many series you're in the middle of, or do you just prefer not to think about it?
I tried to put it together. I think I did a video at the New Year of series that I still have going on, and I stopped at I think around 20. I was like, that's enough for now. I think I got more for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I got Malazan. I have the Bashlag. I still need to read the last book of the Bashlag trilogy. I did the Rage of Dragons, the first 2 books, where it was the first book I thought was pretty good. Second book I got some issues with, but still I still was enjoying the story. There's trying to think if I still have other
audio narrator for that, Dan.
Yeah, so I did that. I did immersive. Yeah, I did immersive, and I thought the narrator was excellent. But I do this, like I start listening to it, and then I'm like, oh man, that's good. I'm gonna go back and I take it off and I go back and read it. You know what I mean? Rather than immersion, I do separate. I did that with Voice Life today too. I listened to the first 3 chapters, got home, took these off, read the first 3 chapters of it. Just to have. I tend to miss shit when I'm listening. Yeah, I tend to. I have this thing that I really want the writer's vision, and when I'm listening, audiobook is something I have to hone. It wasn't something I enjoyed at first. First person stories are easier for me. But when I find a book, I'm like, oh shit, I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is good. I will put the audiobook down and just reread it over because I kind of have my bearings and things like that. And I zone out, man. I'm like, next thing I know, we're like 5 chapters in. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And I literally listened to it, but I have no idea what's happening. Yeah. So I always go back and I want to, grab the writer's, vision as try to get it, complete. I will overread things.
I struggle with audio still too. It's hard. It's like one distraction, and yet, like you said, I'm 5 chapters later. I'm like, and I have to rewind and.
Yeah, I mean, I at this point am an audio expert, and I still zone out. The trick is just catching yourself when you're doing it, and know it, because the problem is everybody zones out. That's just you're never gonna get to a point where you don't zone out. And I listen fast. So, if I zone out for 30 seconds, I've missed a minute and a half generally. So like, those little gaps add up to holes in your understanding pretty quickly if you're not on the ball. But sometimes, I was driving today and I'm listening to The Will of the Many, which is a book I'm really enjoying. I'm liking it quite a bit, but I've been immersed in reading it up until then. And I thought I was at the point where I could just like listen to it and be like all caught up. And I was driving on the highway, and all of a sudden he was just like talking about people, and I just didn't know who those people were, and I didn't know where they were, and he was like drowning, and I'm like, what in the fuck? And I'm like, I zoned out for like 3 chapters, and now I'm just like upset. I'm like, do I just try and like keep plowing on? I'm like, no, I think I have to go back and like, and it just sucks because like it happens to everybody. You get better at it, but there's never going to be a time where you're not just like, wait, what's going on?
I think it's like a time limit thing. Like when I got off of work and I'm going to cook dinner for the family or something. I put it on, and I'm good for like my first 15 to 30 minutes. And then when things start going on, and then I start losing it. But that's when I like to like just put it down and start reading because and I wish I could do audio really good because I have all this time at work. I literally listened to Metamorphosis, Franz Kafka today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that, and I got to the end. I'm like, I kind of see what he's doing here, but then I'm like, I think I missed some shit. Like I know what there's this underlying theme. Maybe it's conformity or capitalism, whatever it may be. Like I just didn't think it was strong. So I was like, I think I missed something. So I went back. It's only 2 hours, and I listened to it again. And that's the thing. Now I feel like, what, I got to read this. Everybody talks about it. I listened to it, and I didn't think I grasped all the concepts within it and all the underlying themes. So I'll probably end up reading it again.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I don't even know if it's a novella. It might be like a short story or novelette. But yeah, I listened to that maybe like 3 or 4 years ago now, and it's definitely stuck with me. I really liked it. That is one I would reread physically for sure, because I also did listen to it, and I'm sure I missed a lot of the nuance. But sometimes I use audio as kind of like a filter. Like I want to try it this time, and if I think it's just fine, then I'm like, then I never have to read it again. But if it's something that's really good, I'm like, now I want to give it my full attention. So I do that a lot too.
Yeah, Boy's Life, Kevin, is hitting the spot, man. That book, first, like I talked about it earlier, that book is definitely. I wonder if it's going to beat Swan Song. And I feel bad because if I do like a top 10 list, I'm going to be like Boy's Life or Swan Song. Like I'm going to have to pick one because that's the rules. You can't have 2 authors.
Listen, man, you did have 9.9 books. Don't do that. Just have them your top.
Yeah, I do my 9.9. I don't put 10 because fuck the algorithm. But they're fantastic. They are drawing me in like crazy. And McCammon is really, if he lands a third book, because obviously I don't know how Boy's Life ends. I've heard a lot about it, that it's fantastic, but and I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy it. And if he does a third book, he's gonna jump up there as one of my favorite authors. And I'm gonna have to give King a shot too, because I find I'm really enjoying horror elements in a lot of things. And I hate horror movies, but I like a little bit of horror in my stories.
Yeah, I also liked Boy's Life more than Swan Song. I think it's a little bit closer for me. Like Kev, like that's his favorite book of all time now. But I liked both of them a lot, and I think I slightly like Boy's Life better. But Boy's Life has stayed with me more. When I think of Boy's Life, I think more about like the themes and all the scenes more than Swan Song, which I just think is like a very propulsive, incredible book, but like, isn't quite to the same level of depth for me. Yeah, Kevin's.
Yeah, I hear Boy's Life will hit me on a more emotional level than Swan Song.
Sure. From
what I picked up.
Definitely the one I have on my TBR too is Boy's Life.
Yeah,
sure.
I love that title too. Speaks the Nightbird. I think that's going to be the 3. I'm going to read those 3, and I'm going to be like, dude, this guy's on my top 5 list right now. Up there with Baker and Martin and Abercrombie.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben, I was talking about this earlier, 11/22/63 buddy read. That book is just phenomenal. But I think Dan should read The Stand first because that's most my favorite.
It's such a chubby boy. I don't know if I want to
Oh,
get
for
into
sure.
The Stand. But have you read what's his vampire book that everybody Salem's Lot?
Salem's
Film
Lot.
plot.
Yeah,
Was
no, that's one
thinking
of my
about
favorite.
doing Salem's
No,
Lot
Salem's Lot's
soon.
excellent.
Okay.
Also, bonus, they announced today that the Salem's Lot movie that they made, that they shelved and were really weird about, that's hitting Max in October. So it's a perfect time to read it because then you can watch the movie if you like the book in a couple of
Mhm.
months. I don't. Is it you haven't read any King, or you mean you wanted to read more King?
King, yeah. So I'd like to read more King, just
Yeah,
because
because I,
I
I
know
remember
he.
you read something and
Mhm.
you like didn't like it that much.
Yeah, so it was The Long Walk. I believe
Oh,
that's
right.
like literally his first book.
It
It
is.
just, it was pretty, it was okay. It just didn't floor me, and I knew it wasn't going to. It was just available. I saw it. I listened to it. I loved the concept that was going down in it. I didn't really feel for any of those characters, and I thought, King is an excellent character writer from what I've heard. I've read a few things. I think I read the It way back when. I don't know that I really finished it, but I do remember reading it. And I think, those are the things I kind of like that the slice of life I'm starting to really enjoy, and character development. And I've heard a lot of good things about King. And so, yeah, I've done the drawing of the three as well as the Gunslinger. I did say that earlier. Like I like that weird fiction. Throw
Yeah.
everything in a pot and give it to me. Sci-fi, fantasy, western. Man, I don't care, romance, whatever you got. Like make it work and give it to me. And I think the first two books of that I have read in Dark Tower were really interesting to me, and I kind of picked up on
Yeah, I think
on
you're gonna vibe with
King's
Dark
writing
Tower.
style. Mhm.
I
Yeah,
actually the reason I went to Winnipeg is because I had an audition for the movie of The Long Walk. They're filming it near me. So I read for the role of
that
Pearson.
shirt looks like it would be perfect. It's kind of got this army kind of look to it that you're wearing,
That's
like
on
a
here.
yeah. But it's that green. Like it looks like you could be in your jeans or corduroys,
Yeah.
and walking with your Converse. Then I can see that. I can see you audition
Yeah,
for
they told us to wear like muted colors and stuff like that. And I show up
that.
and I'm 30 and I'm
Mhm.
reading for a role of an 18-year-old, and I go in and there's
That's
50.
Hollywood is known for
Yeah,
that. Are you kidding
yeah,
me?
and I go into this room of like 50, like teenagers, like they're all younger than me, and I'm like, oh geez. But then they start talking, and none of them have like read the sides, and like they don't even know who the book is by, and all. I'm like, you guys didn't prepare at all, so that made me feel a little better. I do think that the audition went as well as I could hope, being somebody who doesn't. I've gone on 2 auditions ever before, but yeah, no, I actually really like that book. I read it 3 times ish in high school because it's really short, and then I didn't read it at all again. And so when I got the news that I was going to get the audition, I did an impromptu buddy read for the first time in reread for the first time in 12 years or something like that. And I still really liked it, but I'm way more aware of it being King's first novel. I'm like, oh, there's some bumps in the road on this one that I didn't see the first couple times because I was didn't have a frontal lobe that was developed. But neither did King when he wrote it. So
I think my next king is Needful Things. I think I kind
oh
of
jeez.
had that in.
You will be like everybody else and you'll like that book. And
Yeah.
I'll sit here alone on my
Who's
pedestal.
Empire of
Who doesn't
Salt
like it?
by?
So Empire of Salt is a buddy read that Ben and I did by C.F. Golden is what you're gonna have to look it up as, but it's Connie Golden, who does a lot of historical fiction, and it's a really good trilogy that I would like more people to read because each of the books is 300 pages. So altogether, it's less than 1,000. I think it's like 950 total, and the amount of world building and different characters and like magic that this guy has in this small trilogy is just like so cool. And it's like set in a time where guns are just starting to be around. So a couple people know how to use guns, but for the most part, everybody's still using, swords and shields and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I'm not a big gun. I hate guns in my fantasy.
I know, but listen to me. So
you
the
can
thing
pull it
is,
off. Some people.
yeah. So I also don't like guns, and I wasn't even expecting. But there's one character that uses a gun, and everybody else is like, "This guy
Okay,
with a
that's
gun.
cool.
What's going on with it?" Like they use it. It's almost like everybody else views the gun as magic because it's so new. They don't really know what to do with it. And each character, or most of the characters, have like a random magical thing, and it's like not explained. It's just this guy's magic because of this. He can see 10 seconds in the future, and this person, can do something else, whatever. And it's these two different like culture clashes in these cities. One is really, really strict in how they go about everything, and the other is more kind of a democracy of these 12 families that rule, and each of them guards a special artifact. And the second city sends a delegation to the first city, and shenanigans happen from that. But yeah, it's just so imaginative. It's really hard to talk about in a way because, like, I feel like Golden doesn't throw things at
CF
Tower.
Ingleton, CF Ingleton, right?
Yeah, Connor Golden.
Okay.
So Kyle, have you read any China Mieville at all?
I have read The City and the City.
Okay.
And I really want to read Perdido. And have you read City and the City?
I started it. I know what it kind of is about, but I do. I started on audio, and I was getting lost a little bit, and I'm like, but this is an interesting premise. I have Embassy Town on my shelf, but other than Swan Song, I think The Scar, the second book in the Bashlag trilogy, is going to be up there in my top 3 already.
I really think I'll like that one. I mean, I think I'll like Perdido, but it seems like so weird that there's a chance that I bounce off of it. But I think no matter how I feel about Perdido, I'm going to try The Scar after. The City and the City I liked. Like I liked all of the aspects about it except the premise, which that's a pretty big thing to have to get over. But if anybody could sell me on the premise, I feel like he did. I just hated it. My logic brain would not shut off. I'm like, this is impossible. And people were like, yeah, it's just like it's weird fiction, but I'm like, it doesn't compute to me.
Yeah, I was like, are these ghosts that are we living in a different time frame and of a city, and are they walking by ghosts? So I was trying to understand it a little bit, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it's just they just are made to ignore each other. So it's like you and I walking past each other, but we know that if either of us acknowledges the other one, that we'll be put to death. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can buy this as a premise. And it took a long time into the novel for me to finally just like sink into it and let him tell the story that he wanted to tell with it. And I did like it. Like I gave it 4 stars. I thought the prose was really good, very imaginative. I liked the characters. I liked the mystery and the wrap up to it. The ending was really good. It's just I never fully connected with the concept. So I really want to try some more of his books.
Yeah, The Scars. I would definitely get through Perdido Street Station because I do think that provides you with a good grounding of this world. And it's bonkers, man. Perdido Street Station. Yeah, there was a few moments in the book where it was a bit long in the tooth and over descriptive, and it was bothering me a little bit. But the concepts, the imagination of this guy is amazing. The writing is great, but The Scar, man, The Scar was just a tight book. There was no point where I'm like, can we get on with this at all within The Scar? It definitely touches on some pretty cool themes in that book as well.
All right, yeah, I hope to hit that July or August for sure.
Did you guys see that he recently completed a 1,000-page like magnum opus that he's been working on for 20 years?
Who?
China.
Really?
Yeah.
I know he's dropping one with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I know Keanu Reeves is out there too, so I'd like to figure out. I'd like to know: are we going to get a Matrix? What's going to happen here, huh?
So there was a really cool article about China about that book, and then in the it was honestly like a really good profile of China in general because I think he's a really interesting person. But while he was writing the Book of Elsewhere, I think is what it's called, with Keanu Reeves, he was also working on another book. And at first, he didn't want to tell the writer about it because he's like, it's not finished. It's not finished. And then when the Book of Elsewhere was announced, the writer went back. He's like, now it's finished. I can at least tell you a little bit about it, which is that it's, 1,000 pages. He's been working on it for 20 years. He considers it his magnum opus, and it is now with the publisher for editing. But we don't know the name or what it's about or anything like that. It was announced literally last week. So it'll probably be out next year.
Man, I'd be standing in line.
That'd be interesting for sure.
Yeah, the fact that it's the book he's wanted to release for so long, it has me very, very intrigued. I'll probably try to read that first day, see how it goes.
The other one I'm really interested in is Scott Lynch's Lies of Locke Lamora. I have not read any of those yet, but
no, it's on my TBR. I've heard a lot of good things.
Yeah, those books are incredible. If you like The Scar, I mean, without having read The Scar, but just kind of understand what it's about, I feel like you really like the second Locke Lamora book, which is all about pirates, but it still has that swashbuckling.
That's the one I'm looking forward to. I want to get through the first one so I can get to the Red Sky.
The setting of The Scar is just so fantastic and bonkers, man. It's just a city on the ocean, and it's so cool. It was definitely pretty cool, and I wouldn't say I'm a pirate dude or nothing like that, but that book just hit me in all the right spots, and yeah, it's definitely up there as one of the best books. Unfortunately, man, I read a lot of, like I said, I don't read a lot, so I haven't read a lot. I've read some great books, man. Flowers for Algernon is sitting rent free in my head. I just the last 20 pages of that book, I had a golf ball in my throat. My toxic masculinity wouldn't let me fucking cry. It was crazy.
Damn it!
That book was
feelings.
Yeah. You guys don't cry in books? I cry all the time in books.
So I was floored by this book I'm reading now because it is so indicative of my own life. Literally, this guy's story is my story, and I was just floored. I'm like, how is it? It felt like I was reading somebody wrote my story of a book. Are you
talking about Demon Copperhead?
Yeah, I am talking about Demon Copperhead.
I saw your review. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't reviewed it yet, but I don't know how much I want to share with. I don't really care that I share with people about that, but this guy, the events that occurred in that book so mirror my own life. This kid was an artist. He escaped. I had parents that were drug addicts that disappeared when I was 10 years old, and just the way she created that character, so real to life, was absolutely bonkers to me. And the events that occurred in his life mirrored mine so crazily that I just had to step back. I was like, holy shit. And I definitely shed a bit of a tear there. But yeah, the dude was an artist, Demon Copperhead. This was me circa 93 escaping, drawing Kurt Cobain and things like that. And he played football. I played football. This is no,
Barbara Kingsolver have been hiding in your basement.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I love that book. And
great character work, man. She nailed it on the head. The way this character is.
And to me, so I grew up, adjacent, and it struck so true to me in so many aspects of it, and it's almost like what my life could have been like, because there was a big, changing event in my life where we went from living in the South, in Alabama. And then we came up north, and if that, to me, it was almost a thought experiment of if that didn't have happened, this might have been more like what my life looked like, and it was really powerful in that way. But even if people don't have that upbringing or that familiarity, I think she does such a good job of painting what the life is like, and like Demon Copperhead, you just get him. And I saw some people didn't want to read it because they're like, oh, I need to read David Copperfield first, or I don't like David. I'm like, I don't think it matters, man. I haven't read David Copperfield. It's just a phenomenal book. I really, really liked it. It's probably the second, like if I was to rank my reads this year, like I mean, Lonesome Dove is like #1, but Demon Copperhead might be the second on my list for this year so far, which is
Yeah, so
been a
that's on.
pretty impressive year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I hate to do it. I'm having such a good time, but I got to kind of wrap this up. It is, as you can see, it's past my bedtime. You know, I already drank my chamomile tea, and we've been on this for 2 hours, so I definitely need to wrap it up in a few moments here.
Yeah, I was just actually just about to say I was going to wrap it up if you guys had any final thoughts about, you know, anything you guys have coming up or any, you know, buddy reads you're excited for or anything like that you guys want to share.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into Boys Life because you know I'm
For sure.
excited to finish that. We'll see if Philip K. Dick lands for me, and I really wanted it to be Ubik as my starting book for him because I've heard you know people say how good it is, and you know I started that, so I'm hoping that lands for me. You know, I got Christopher Rocchio. I gotta continue on with Sun Eater, and I got to continue on with Malazan. Like it's just I get pulled in so many different directions. It's like
Same.
not even funny.
Stressful.
And you know things are on my agenda. You know even philosophy. You know it could be anything. Shadow of the Torturer. Gene Wolfe is on my shelf, staring daggers at me. So, you know, I got so many things and I'm being pulled in so many different directions. I'm a mood reader. I can't tell you what I'm going to read tomorrow. You know, it's all about where I'm at that point, you know. But yeah.
You got a lot of really good stuff ahead of you then, it sounds like. I really need to get some Gene Wolfe too. Chris, what about you? Anything coming up soon?
Yeah, like Dan, I'm a mood reader, so I can name off 20 different books that I want to get to. I know I want to get to Mike Shackle here pretty soon. I have, like I mentioned earlier, Jenny Warts. I have some sci-fi. I want to continue with Sun Eater. I want to continue with Red Rising. What else is? Yeah. I forgot to mention Expanse. That was on my list because I'm a big Abraham fan. I got a ton of indie books to go through, so it's going to be a journey. But that's the cool thing with reading, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for joining me tonight. It was a lot of fun, and you know, I feel like I learned a lot about you guys. So we'll have to do this again sometime. And chat, thanks for hating on me simultaneously as agreeing with me, Kevin, mostly. But you guys were great as always. Thanks everybody. Have a nice night, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.